all the audio crystal clear and everything.
Okay, I'm muting now.
So yeah, so I'll be sort of facilitating. I'll start us out. We're gonna go through this toolkit. It sort of goes through how to organize a tenant union, different tactics tenants can take to fight back to the landlord. I'll introduce some of the members who are going to be speaking. We got Alex, Isaiah, and Amanda. So we'll just go ahead and get started. First off, though, I just want to talk a little bit about who Dallas Stops Eviction is. We're a citywide tenant union that struggles directly against not only the landlord, but the capitalist system. So why do we struggle against this system? Because we can't struggle against landlords if we don't struggle against the system that enables them to do what they do. Landlords themselves as individuals are just people. If you get one gone, another one just pops up in their place and does the same thing. Because the system itself, the system sustains itself on profit at any cost. They don't fix your apartment, they increase your rent, they charge you ridiculous fees. That's just all part of the system. It's all the profit motive. So the practice of rent itself is also an exploitative practice that produces nothing for society. We've seen at Rolling Hills, they make $2.5 million a month on all those units, 2,200 units, and they don't produce anything for society. What do? They let your roof cave in or your ceiling cave in. They let you live with mold, and then if you stop paying because of COVID, they evict you. What is a landlord? A landlord is someone that has money to purchase a property. How did they get that money? They were more likely than not born into it or gained it through the exploitation of workers. So they buy the property, they collect millions of dollars a month, and they don't work for us at all, while the working class is on the front line during this pandemic. So if the landlord can be replaced and nothing changes, then we can't just fight the landlord, but the system that produces and enables landlordism. Not only do we have to fight the system, do we have to smash the system? We have to smash the system and build a workers system in its place. What would this system look like? It'll look like our newest member, Sherelle, who has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to Rolling Hills since 2006, owning her own apartment, owning it alongside her neighbors with no landlord to steal their incomes. It would look like no evictions during a global pandemic. It would look like money for food, water, and other basic necessities during this pandemic. But to be honest, we only have one real idea of what a worker state would look like. It would look like the masses of people, all of us here, the majority of people, deciding what's best for us, not best for the small, few, ultra-wealthy people currently in power. So what I would like to say before we get started is that the people make the world run, so we believe the people should run the world. We're building that here. We're building an organization for the people and not the landlord, for the worker and not the boss, and for socialism and not capitalism, because socialism is for the people. Now, so I'd like to introduce Alex, our DSE Treasury. If you'd like to go ahead, Alex.
Hi, I'm the treasurer of DSE. I'm also a member of Democratic Socialists of America, and I care a lot about this issue because it's something that affects all kinds of issues, whether it's recidivism, the kids having to move schools, because I was a teacher for 4 years. So it's the roof over your head is such an important part of your life, and that's why I'm here.
And Isaiah, would you like to go next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Isaiah Madrigal. I'm a postal worker, a state licensed barber braider. I'm also a member of DSEs and Highland Hills co-chair, as well as a member of DSA and the Sunrise Movement, which is an environmental organization. I got interested in tenant organizing. It was actually something new. I haven't seen anyone fight for the housing. I didn't even know about the CDC moratorium. So if I would have known that, like, there was people I remember seeing on their stuff getting thrown out on the street, like here at my neighbors. Like, if I would have known that, I could have offered those resources. And these resources that we'll see right here are very important. And I'm hoping that we continue this and we get more people involved and more apartment complexes, you know, building collective power and becoming partners in their living situation and having a say in how their conditions are.
And Amanda, she's our chair at Estelle Village in Highland Hills. You like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I'm Amanda. For those that don't know me, I'm the outspoken one here at Estelle Village. I reached out to DSE in regards to some situations and circumstances we had over here. And after the phone call, DSE has showed up every time, canvassing, protesting, working with me and other tenants over here. And without DSE, none of this would have been possible. Like, I've always been the one in the background just waiting for situations to play out. No, I'm gonna make the plays. So yeah, I'm Amanda, and let's do this.
All right, awesome. Thanks, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this toolkit. This toolkit will help us organize, just basically give us an outlook on how to organize a tenant union and different tactics and everything. So we're going to start out with the hotline and incident report. If you can go ahead to the next slide. We got this incident report. It's sort of it gives you like a few basic questions like what's your name, who owns your property, what your situation is it eviction, is it no maintenance, all this other stuff. There was a friend of mine who used to always say like ask workers who do you work for and how are they screwing you, and this is sort of the equivalent of like who is your landlord and how are they screwing you over. So it basically asks all those questions. And we get back to you immediately whenever we see these. Sherelle actually filled out one of these forms. We didn't get back to her immediately because we didn't get a notification for it, but it's just a couple of days. So yeah, these are definitely really important to keep things on file, to know what's going on at different locations and for your specific tenants as well. We also have our phone number, which has been really useful. We've gotten a lot of calls. We actually got a call today about someone who's being evicted while he actually has COVID, which is ridiculous. So we're working through that with him. Next slide, please. So these are some of your rights and legal resources. These are all things we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be protected for, but as a lot of people can probably attest to, it's not always the case. They find ways around all these things. Especially that first one, you look at it, cannot evict you without proper cause, and added on to that the CDC moratorium, but they're still doing that. The landlords, they're still doing that at whatever cost to human life. They don't care at all. The same with health and safety. They have like thousands of little channels you have to go through. They have all these little loopholes to get around fixing your apartment, which is if your apartment's like unsafe, it's affecting your health. They have so many different loopholes that they go through or make you go through to actually live somewhere that affects your health and safety. So all these things are struggles we can also organize around. Especially, there's also the tenants with disabilities. We've seen at Estelle a woman who has cancer who just wants to move downstairs because she can't. Because she's scared of falling down her steps. Amanda, you wanted to say something?
Yes, in regards to the health conditions, we have to, as tenants, call 211 or 311 and report it. When I spoke with Tanel Atkins today and what's that man's name? Hold on. Troy Brassard from the head dude at DHA, he said the tenants haven't reported any like mold or problems with the structures or anything like that. So we as tenants we have to flood 311 or 211 and make reports because they said, I don't know, within the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years, there's maybe been 3 or 4 calls. And so we need to like keep flooding them. We need to find out where the mold is coming from. You know, there's a water leak somewhere. They need to fix the water leak and then repair the sheetrock, and you know, there will be no mold, not just paint over it or, you know, just put a Band-Aid on it. You need to get down to the initial problem, what's causing the leak. So we need to, as tenants, stay on code, like call.
Yeah, we can definitely we can have like little workshops as well where we like sort of write like mass letters, like we write like 60, 70 letters from all the tenants and send them out, flood their mailboxes as well, call them, have little like weeks where we try to call them like every day between a certain time period. Those are all tactics that we'll get into as well later on. Next slide, please. So we have a few tools for researching your landlord. This is really important because you need to know who's actually like profiting off of your rent. There's a lot of, and who to like send maybe a list of demands to, send a lot of things to. So at Estelle, there's a tool called the Dallas County Appraisal district address lookup. And whenever we searched Estelle, it just said Estelle Villages. It didn't give us any information on like the landlord. So we had to use other resources to find out who the actual landlord was. So this is very important. You need to know who your landlord is. You need to know other properties they own so you can maybe collaborate with those other properties to put the maximum amount of pressure on the landlord. You have to know where they're located out of. There's other little tactics as well, like knowing which church he goes to, who's influenced, who he's influenced by, like maybe a pastor. You can get to the pastor and they can talk about, they can put pressure on them. Amanda, you want to add something?
Yes. Okay. So Silver Tree has 3 properties. It's Estelle Village, it's Lakeland, and it's Forest Green. I just found that out today. So those are the 3 properties that Mr. Carmichael has.
A little point of order. Amanda, we're gonna talk about all the things with Estelle, probably with Estelle people. For time's sake, we just wanna probably go through it. And then I think there's a part in here where we'll talk about Estelle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's near the end. It's just, we want y'all to give an update on Estelle, sort of outline the struggle, because that's super important to know what's possible. And then like Amanda said, we found out that they have other properties in Dallas, and we found out they do the same thing where they buy up former public housing and make some profit off of it. So that helps us like sort of recognize that people are going through like the exact same thing. So yeah, landlord research is super important. Can we move on to the next section? And I'll pass this off to Alex.
Okay. So tenant unions is the main organizing tool that Dallas Stops Eviction uses for tenants. We also do work with homeless. But tenant unions we focus on because we believe in collective power. We're stronger together than we are as individuals. A well-organized tenant union can win demands that no individual tenant could win. Collective power is all we have to combat money and influence. So we're a city-based tenant union, but our goal is to have each complex have their own tenant union. Like Estelle Tenant Association, something like that. And so it's a network of tenants who often have similar issues, and they stand in solidarity with each other, but may live in different buildings or have different landlords. But right now we're focusing on people who have the same landlord. So organizing a tenant union, it's a long process. It starts with just connecting with your neighbors, because whatever problems you have, there's probably others that do too. You are definitely not alone, and like Cooper said, how the landlord's hearing you. So it's a little different during a pandemic, of course. Normally we would knock on doors and have in-person conversations and have like meetings in someone's apartment. But we've been able to still social distance while we have meetings by like doing it outside. And then definitely standing 6 feet apart when we canvass. So you start with a relationship map. Who do you know? Who do you see a lot? Who do people go to for help? Building and neighborhoods have natural leaders and people who are hubs. Take note of who those are. And then the next step is to canvass. So that's distributing letters to other tenants in your building, or going door to door, and getting their contact information, and then follow up with them. If you just leave a letter with them and they contact you, then you're following up with them and having a one-on-one with them. So you want to have a one-on-one with them, and then the goal is to have to organize a tenant meeting. So one-on-ones are really important organizing tools, because they deepen relationships with individuals. You identify their self-interests in organizing with you and other tenants, and have people tell you others they know in the building and give you their contact information. The next is the tenant meeting. So once you've built these relationships and you've gotten people to agree to come to a meeting, at the meeting you craft a set of demands, you determine the target, and what you know or don't know about them, because people in the your neighbors might have worked longer with them and might know more about them than you do. And then you also establish a commitment to each other, because just the act of showing up to a tenant meeting is showing up for each other. And then after the tenant meeting, you have list management. So you keep the contact information and add to it. You make notes about how enthusiastic they were when you talked to them, what their issues are, and where they're coming from and their motivations. And then next is action. So after you have your demands, and then you're deciding what tactics to use and what escalation to use. And you work together with collective action as a tenant union. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about one-on-one specifically, because they are they're the building block of organizing. There's no collective power without deep relationships. A good rule of thumb is to start small and build at the speed of trust. The purpose of a one-on-one is to have natural, intentional, but uncommon conversations with someone to build a relationship with about their values, vision, life, and motivations. So after you introduce yourself, you go into what their life and motivations are. And it's really important that you do a lot of listening. And it's not an interview or a fact-finding mission, but it's an authentic effort to get to know them as a person. Because people are motivated by different things. They have different values. And when you get to the heart of what their values are, then you can move them towards a specific ask. Because if you're just talking about what they can do for you, then they won't see the benefit for them. Next, you talk about the issues. So the concerns, the issues they have with the building and the landlord. Go deeper, ask what impact those issues have on their mind, body, and relationships. So get them really thinking about not just the frustration that they experience, but also like the long-term effects of these things and what they could change about their living situation if they could. And then that will naturally move into agitation, because when you start talking with people about how things impact them, then it touches on like that, their emotions. And that's when you can validate that you believe that you both do deserve better. This is about respect and dignity. Who is responsible and who has the power to change this? It's really important to build a collective understanding that our inability to pay rent is not our fault and it's nothing to be ashamed about. We have no control over layoffs, illness, school closures, etc. But we do have control over what we do to take care of our neighbors. And then you move into a vision. So you ask the person you're talking to imagine what it would look like if you won. Walk them through what it would take to win. What does it look like if they took action alone? What would it look like if we all took action together? We can get things done together that we would never be able to get done alone. And you can give them an example, like if an individual tenant emailed the landlord with a complaint, they might get ignored, which happens a lot. But if we delivered a letter with signatures from everyone in the building, it's a different story. Then they can't ignore that. Then you have an ask for the person. So you ask them if they're willing to if they're going to stand by and allow these issues they've identified to continue, or if they're ready to come together with other tenants and build power to take care of each other. So this doesn't always happen in the first conversation you have, just meeting someone, but especially with how quickly people are getting evicted and the unique times of mass unemployment, it's not really something that we want to wait around for. Because once they start talking about these issues, they're going to be hopefully really motivated to do something about it, because rent's due every month and people are really struggling to pay right now and are still living in bad conditions. So then after the ask is the inoculation, and this is when you prepare them for what to expect when the landlord finds out that we're organizing, because the landlord will not like it. Why won't they like it? Because they know that when tenants come together, they can win big, and that impacts the landlord's profits. And this step is really important because you want people to be mentally prepared for the retaliation by the landlord, because it almost always happens. Landlords never just like, oh, okay, yeah, here's some power. And that comes when landlords retaliate, that comes with a lot of fear and anxiety for all the people who are organizing. And landlords know how effective that fear and anxiety is, and they try to break up the collective action. But if you can talk about the possibilities of what landlord can do and what you can do about them, then people are more mentally prepared when it does happen, and they already have a plan in place on how to deal with it. And then the last part of the conversation is to ask the person who else they know in the building. Will they connect you to them? Will they join a tenant meeting and with other tenants to discuss these issues as a group? And ideally, you would have a one-on-one with someone, and then they would have one-on-ones with people they know. And that way we're not doing all the work with just one person. It just multiplies. So these are some common landlord tactics that you can talk about during the inoculation part of one-on-one organizing. Because even though retaliation is illegal, landlords still do it. So there's the divide and conquer, where they act surprised that there's an issue. And this includes like saying, oh, well, we didn't know you had a maintenance problem because there's like not documentation about it. They can offer special treatments to individuals who give info about organizing or choose to withdraw from tenant organization. And this also includes them wanting to deal with tenants only one-on-one. They say, oh, well, we'll fix your apartment. We're so happy to fix your apartment, but they don't address the tenant organization as a whole. They just want to talk to you. They can also, and that's part of the negotiating with tenants individually instead of as a collective. They can also address a non-concern or only address a few concerns, or they make small concessions or improvements. And then there's also intimidation, threatens to withhold maintenance repairs, threatens to cut utilities, threatens to not renew the lease or evict or sue. And we've also seen a lot of intimidation using complex security. So as you are organizing a tenant meeting, these are some platforms to use, and we've kind of arranged them as far as their convenience and their security. We're using Zoom right now, which is a great tool because you can have up to 100 participants for 40 minutes on the free version, and then there's unlimited one-on-one. And we also have a Slack channel. And the Slack has channels for all the different topics that we talk about all the time. And there's a channel for each complex that we are working with. And all you have to do to join the Slack is just let us know your email address. Google Hangouts is similar to Zoom, but you can only have 10 people on the call. If it's a video, if it's a phone call, you can have up to 150 people. FaceTime, of course, is only for iOS users, but it's an option. It's just, you leave the Android folks out. Signal is a group chat. It's good for rapid response situations like evictions or car towing. And it's just one text thread, and that's why it's good for emergencies. Because if you're planning something, it can get like lost up in the farther back the conversation goes.
I did want to add to Signal. We're setting up signals for Rolling Hills, and we should probably try to set one up like for Estelle. So everyone, do we have I think we already have a group chat for Estelle actually, but yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, and then we also have the Facebook group, and that's not a live organizing, it's not really for something for a meeting, but it's for talking amongst each other in the meantime. And you can make the group private and monitor the participants to make sure that like the property manager doesn't somehow get in. Of course, everybody has to be on Facebook in order to be in the group. Okay, so during the tenant union meeting that you have, after you've had these one-on-ones and you've been starting to build relationships and now you're all coming together, you definitely want to be mindful of agendas and timelines. If you run a bad tenant meeting, people won't want to come back. Every meeting should have a clear purpose, desired outcomes, and agenda. Timeliness is an important way to honor your neighbor's time. And reminders are important because people get caught up with life and they might need reminding more than once. Might seem like you're bugging them, but this is such an important issue, and I mean, this is the roof over their head. So if you try to do everything yourself, people will not be invested in the campaign. So at the tenant meeting, it's really important for you to delegate tasks and let people take ownership of tasks, even if you think you would do it better or you like your ideas more. Because we really, in order to have collective power, each person has to be invested. And the way to get them invested is for them to be, feel like that they can bring something to the table and that what they're doing matters. During the tenant meeting, you draw a map of the property and physical space and kind of figure out who do you still need to talk to, who already knows each other, how are people already organized. And you can include other social networks like churches, workplace, other communities. If there's a nonprofit that comes in and works in your complex. And then as far as decision-making goes, when someone's input is included during the planning stages of an action, they're more likely to stay engaged, participate, and even help lead. Don't expect to plan an action and then just have everyone just show up. Then the follow-up is 90% of an organizer's job is the following up. Reach out to folks and thank them for coming to the meeting, ask for their thoughts, send notes to people who weren't able to make it but expressed interest, and then hold people accountable to their commitments. So during this tenant meeting, you start with the demands, talking together about what exactly do you guys want. And these demands should be specific. They should name a target who can meet the demands. They need to be time bound. When does it need to happen by? And then shared among the group. We all want this. So some specific demands are rent suspension, or examples. Rent suspension for 3 months, no late fees, no evictions, free washing, timely maintenance, notice before entry into units, and disability accommodations. And we have the list of Estelle demands to go over in a little bit. And next is talking about the target and power analysis. So who has the power to fix your problem? What does your target want? What is your target afraid of? How can you bring what they are afraid of closer to them and move what they want further away? What type of pressure will work against them? Who or what influences them? Can you apply social, political, or financial pressure on them? And then who else can apply that pressure? City council member, faith leader, media. So once you have your demands, then you need to talk about how you get your demands met. So you definitely want to use a set of tactics and not just have one plan. You need to be informed by what you know will move the target, and you need to have an escalation plan because you need to talk about what will happen. What will you do if the landlord does not respond to your letter? You also need to talk to your neighbors about a retaliation plan. What will you do if they retaliate against you for organizing? How can we keep each other safe if they, for example, ramp up security and harass people even more? Because escalating as a collective is key. You don't want to have just a small section of you pushing harder than others, because the whole point of escalation is to let them know that you will not be silenced and you're not going to give your demands and wait for them to meet them when they feel like it. So some specific tactics examples are letters to the landlord, press briefings, getting your city council person to contact them, signs in windows, social media pressure, and possibly rent strikes. So some key questions to ask yourself when you're deciding on which tactics to use. Will the tactic move the target to satisfy our demands? Is it visible to your landlord or to the people who your landlord cares about? Are enough people ready to do it? How many? Will this unify people and will it feel powerful? And then how will management react and how can we prepare for possible retaliation? All right, so this is so when we had the first Estelle tenant meetings and they crafted the demands, this is the result of what came from those demands, is the letter to the landlord. And Isaiah or Amanda, you want to talk about that?
You want to go, Isaiah, or I can? So, as you can see in the photo, that was the day we brought the list of the demands to the office, and we marched through the apartments, the Estelle Village complex, and then from there, when we presented the demands to the office, you know, we barged into the office with floors and you know, let them know we're here and we're not going anywhere. And they put us out. They locked the door. They didn't want to say anything. They didn't speak to us. They called security, and we marched to Tenant Atkins' office, and you know, I spoke the demands over the loudspeaker in front of his front door. And I'm serious, and we need more like me over here. It's a lot of pressure. I feel pressured, but I'm not gonna bust. I just need more people to stand in solidarity with me. But I'm not stopping until we get this resolved. As you can see, every meeting, I'm gonna make it. If they're doing any kind of movement over here, I'm gonna make it, and my voice is gonna be heard. And you know, they're not gonna put me out. Move me, move me. I'm not going nowhere.
I wanted to add a little bit to that. As you can see, like, we got a little bit of a crowd in the picture. We've heard so many stories about security harassing individual tenants, but when we just marched right by them, we were chanting and stuff. They didn't say anything because, you know, they can't you know, just do anything to all of us because we're all together. We had each other's backs and everything. And Amanda, could you do you think you explain like how the list of demands came about? maybe give like a little background on how we came up with the list of demands?
The list of demands came up when DSE came out here and we canvassed, and we were able to, I was able to talk to some tenants, knocking on the door, seeing people walk around, telling them, what DSE was and, what they were going to do for us in our community. And we basically, we met at the park, and people were hauling out their demands, and, it was noted, and that's how we came about, the parking, the parking sticker is ridiculous. Like, they haven't started the towing yet because they don't know where they stand. Like, when we met the day at the park for our list of demands, and we marched, there was like 2 tow trucks that came in there, and I followed the tow truck to where he was at and asked him, why he was here, because he looked like he was up to something. He wasn't gonna tow no car that day. I'm not playing. And he, he kind of got nervous. He was like, what's going on here? Well, we're going on. Dallas Stops Evictions going on, and you're not towing the car. We would have put bodies on that car. We're not playing.
Yeah, and that's why we need to keep a line of communication. So like if we're not out there and someone sees someone's getting towed, we can message everyone. Everyone can come out and physically stop it, like Amanda said.
Yep.
And this is the list of demands is, I think, our next step for Rolling Hills is get people together to discuss what they want to see done at Rolling Hills, how they want to change. That will be probably our first meeting, I believe.
Okay, if I need to come to Rolling Hills, I will, to support. Just let me know. It would have to be like in between school hours. My footwork would have to be between school hours because of my little ones.
Mm-hmm. And so here we are at Tenant Atkins' office with the list of demands. There's Amanda was reading those out, and we were just making some noise. They finally responded. Would you like to talk about the response that we've gotten from Atkins and from everyone else? Because it would be good to have everyone updated on that.
Okay, yeah. So I spoke with Tenant Atkins 3 times a day. He called me about 9 o'clock this morning. And he was on the phone with Mr. Troy Broussard from DHA. And DHA is no longer have anything to do with the Estelle Village, being they sold it to Silver Tree. So our concerns and our issues have to be brought to James Carmichael and Tenant Atkins, of course, because Troy made it clear that DHA has nothing to do with this. So whatever issues we have, it has to be brought to the attention of James Carmichael and Tenant Atkins. And Tenant Atkins was very adamant about helping today. Like, I sent him a message, and like within 5 minutes he called back, and it's in regards to the meeting we were going to have on December 2nd for DHA, him, and James.
Compliance.
Yeah, James. So he's gonna get a hold of his secretary, and it's gonna be sometime after the 2nd, because he has a council meeting on the 2nd. So I told him, reach out to me and let me know when you can meet with James Carmichael and yourself and the tenants association over here. And he said he would let me know by Monday what his schedule looks like. So whenever he tells me that he's ready and he's got James Carmichael on the line and he's willing to, hear our demands and work with us, then I will definitely let you guys know.
Yeah, we definitely getting James Carmichael, the owner, on the line is super important. He responded right with like addressing the list of demands, but sort of like saying that they weren't actually happening. Is that right?
Right. He said when he spoke with James Carmichael in regards, okay, my main concern is a lease. Nobody over here has a lease from Silver Tree. And Mr. Atkins stated that when he spoke with Carmichael, that he said 80% of everybody over here at Estelle Village has a lease. And I said, no, 80% of the people over here, we signed a rule book. We never signed a lease. So I don't know where Carmichael is getting this lease thing from. And also, I want to state that Mr. Troy Broussard, the head guy from DHA, said that in the lease for DHA, I still have a lease, I'm going to have to read it. But he said once the lease ends, that it goes to month. So everybody over here at Estelle Village, we're on a month-to-month lease. So basically, we're all set up for eviction. It's just a matter of when.
Yes. And
When.
that's important to get. You have to get a long-term lease, or like a longer than month lease for that security.
Yeah.
So
But when I applied before DHA sold the property, my recertification started September 24th of this year. So my lease would end September 24th of next year. But according to Mr. Troy, I'm on a month-to-month.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
And with that lease violation for the noise, I'm just waiting to get served that. So we're going to see how this plays out. But all that is in retaliation against me, organizing this tenants union. So now they're trying to put the heat on me, but that's cool though. I got something for them. They can bring it. They can bring it.
Yeah, you got backup too.
Yeah.
And you want to move to the next slide. So we sort of went over this stuff, escalations, meet as a small group, define the demands. This is sort of where we're at, what we've been through with Estelle. We met as a small group, we defined demands. It was actually a pretty big group at the park, at the playground. It was about like 50 people, a bunch of kids running around. So we also shamed the landlord through both media and social media. We delivered the letter to the landlord. We've got a city council person just to work with us. We need to start mass calling in the landlord's office and cell potentially. We've sort of done all these further escalation stuff as well. Contact the media. We've done a direct action. So the next step is we're still around in the further escalation area. You want to move to the next slide? Yeah. So rent strikes are. Alex, you want to take over this one?
Yeah. So rent strike is a pretty serious escalation tactic. It's a mass withholding of rent, and it needs to be executed very strategically. And we want to talk about this with everyone that we are training on tenant organizing, because we want to give y'all as much information as possible so you can make an informed decision. Because it's a tactic, not a demand, and we want just y'all to think of know as much information in order to make that decision, because it's ultimately up to the tenant union to decide how they escalate. So the most successful rent strikes are part of a broader strategic campaign that includes rallies, pickets, media, petitions, rent reductions, and other tactics. And there's a difference between a rent strike and a rent non-payment. So rent strike is collective power. It's saying that we're choosing not to pay rent, whereas just rent non-payment is like what happens as a default of like people are just behind on rent already. And if a lot of people are already behind on rent, then it kind of waters down the rent strike because they're like, well, you're not paying anyway. So it's just something to consider. It's a means to an end, not the end itself. So the risks with a rent strike are sometimes they last years, sometimes they fail, and a failure will affect the most vulnerable people the hardest. You can't do it half-heartedly. We got to take care of ourselves and our fellow neighbors. So before you escalate to a rent strike, ask yourselves these questions. Have you built relationships with your neighbors or formed a tenants union? Have you attempted collective negotiation with your landlord? Have you attempted a one-on-one with every tenant under the landlord? Have you presented clear collective demands to the landlord that haven't been met? Have you gotten a commitment to strike from a supermajority of tenants, which is more than 75%? And have you organized a collective backup plan if the strike fails? So if you decide to go ahead with a rent strike, then you want to speak to a lawyer first so that the tenants can best coordinate with them on strategy and then establish a relationship in case the attorney needs to consolidate the cases. Then you send a demand letter to your landlord outlining the demands and threatening that a rent strike will begin if your demands aren't met by a particular date. On that date, send an announcement letter putting them on notice that you're officially on rent strike and announce the rent strike on media. It must be public in order to assert as much pressure as you can and to make your demands clear. So when we talk about, and we've talked about using the media as a strategy a couple times, and so there's a few things that we want you to know about talking to the media, and some tips and tricks. So reporters are really easy to find on the internet, and we have a press list started, but you should also organize a press list of your own, especially if media has already come out, like KERA did to Estelle, so that you can talk to those same reporters that are already interested in your story. A press advisory is what you send to a reporter before the event, and it's the format tells them all the information they need to know, and there's a template at the end of the toolkit for that. A press release is something that you send after an event happens. So that's when a reporter didn't come, but maybe they want to talk about the story as in a broader, if it's part of a broader story, like Spectrum did. So the press advisory and press release templates are both in our resource section. So when you invite press, you should always be ready for someone to represent the tenant union as a spokesperson. And you should prepare them beforehand so they're not surprised and super anxious. And when the reporter wants to talk to someone, there's not any hesitation about who that is. Ideally, you want one of the spokespeople to be able to speak in Spanish, because we do have Spanish-speaking news stations that come out, and even though they do translate if you talk in English, it's always better to just be able to speak straight to the camera and connect to a Spanish-speaking audience. And then with social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are pretty useful for organizing. You can find other tenants that way, and you can also escalate against your landlord. So we have a Facebook page, and that's where we post calls to action or talk about a big issue, or list landlord elected official content in a script for people to use if we do the call-in tactic. So when speaking to the media, if you want to, you can always talk to reporters, quote unquote, off the record or on background, meaning you won't be named or quoted as the source. You can ask that your name is changed for the story if you feel it's necessary, and you never have to answer a question that makes you uncomfortable. You just make sure if you want to talk off the record that you say it before you start talking, so that they know and can adjust their how they listen accordingly. Okay, so this is an example of the first response we got from Tenant Atkins, and this kind of was a result of a couple DSE members shaming him at a city council meeting and just throwing him under the bus. It was great. So we want to point out that any target could side with the landlord and make a power move against you. So here are some tactics that a landlord would use, like the divide and conquer strategy that Tenant used in his letter. So like this sentence, it's my understanding that the new property owner of Estelle Village has been working with you to address your concerns. That's like him acting surprised if there's any issue at all. It's like, oh, well, they're working with you on that. And then he addressed a non-concern where he's talking about years of ramped crime, where crime was not a part of the demands at all. Threats of eviction, basic necessities, and internet and maintenance. And that's him only addressing a few of the demands. And then him saying, please reach out to me directly. that's kind of like a landlord trying to negotiate with tenants individually instead of as a collective. So we definitely want to make sure with this special attention that he's giving Amanda or anybody else, that it's still making sure that he's addressing them as a collective and not just trying to help out Amanda's specific situation. Okay, so this is our resource section where we're just going to go through the resources that we have available for tenants. This is landlord research worksheet. So when you're doing research on your landlord, these are some good questions to ask and some ways to get the thoughts rolling about knowing who your target is and what influences them. Because it's such a new arena for a lot of us. We don't really know much about landlords. So these are some really specific questions to, so that you know as much as you can about your landlord. These are templates we have, like a letter you can send to your neighbors if you're not doing door-to-door knocking and talking to them. A sample meeting agenda. So you don't have to write an agenda yourself. You can kind of follow this process if you want. And then this is an example of the tenant union letter to the landlord. And this is the template that we use with Estelle. So here are the conditions we're facing, and this is what we demand. And then we had a list of signatures.
I did want to point out that that template for the tenant union meeting agenda is going to be important as we start having like weekly meetings with the tenants at the different apartments.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll keep you on track. These are the press templates that we just talked about, the press advisory that you send before an event, and then the press release that you send after. These are the legal assistance and rental assistance resources that we've gathered. So we have, this is our own working list of rental assistance, and then we also have the legal aid of Northwest Texas, the list they put together, and it has 20 organizations on it. And it breaks it down by like what the requirements are and how much they'll give you and how long they'll give it to you for. This is just a picture of our Facebook page, Facebook group. And then this map of city council districts and JP precincts, that's a Google map. So when you click on that and go into it, you can type in the address of where you are, and it'll show you right away like who your city council district person is, what number that is, and then which precinct, because there are, the lighter color are the precincts. There's 5 of them in Dallas County, and then this crazy shape is the city council districts.
Amanda wanted to add something. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the organizations that are willing to help with the rent, it's James Carmichael, Estelle Village, or Silver Tree Residential. They gotta be willing to accept the help. You know what I'm saying? Like, before I came here, like in 2016, I had a house, and I lost my job, and the West Dallas Multipurpose Center helped me. You know, and not all landlords are willing to, you know, willing to work with organizations that help. So we gotta find out which ones they are, what programs and organizations are willing to help over here. Like, will Carmichael accept help, or is he just gonna be a butt and, you know, not accept any help and, you know, put us out there and oppress us even more?
Yeah, yeah, we've been seeing that. Part of the CDC moratorium that, I mean, it expires at the end of December. But one of the stipulations is just that you attempt to get rental assistance. As long as you have documentation, then it doesn't really depend on whether the landlord accepts it or not. So that's like an important step. So we want people to use these resources, even if the landlord doesn't accept them, because it's really good documentation that you are trying.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's a spreadsheet of all the JP courts and constables. So, for example, when we had a tenant who they were threatening, they told her, we're going to evict you on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And not that they gave her an eviction notice, they were just intimidating her. And so because it's the constable who evicts you, we had to find the constable's phone number and call, and they're like, oh, their office is closed. He's not coming today. So we just want all this information together. So when stuff like that happens, you can know right away what the phone number is and like what the hours are, as well as whether you can have people watching the hearings. Some courts are letting visitors in and some aren't. This is a CDC declaration that we just mentioned. And this is like the main, this is the only legal defense pretty much that we have right now as tenants to not get evicted because the other moratoriums have expired. And then you have to sign that you did all these things. And specifically for Thomas Jones Court, which is where a lot of our a lot of our complexes are, like Estelle, Rolling Place, and then Sunset Place. So they're all in Thomas Jones Court. And what happened with one of the tenants was that she gave the CDC declaration to the landlord first before she got the eviction notice. And so the landlord took that to the court when she filed the eviction. And so she, at the same time, scheduled a hearing to like argue that the tenant hadn't done these things. And that kind of sped up the eviction process. So for people who are in precinct 1, we're giving them the advice to not give the declaration to the landlord and to just go straight to the court after an eviction is already filed. And that's a better chance of getting it signed by the clerk and then presenting it to the landlord and delaying the eviction. And then, so this is a little explainer. And then we have an updated one that we'll add to the resource list. All right, and this is our contact information and another picture from the Estelle tenant meeting, because all power to the people.
Yeah, I did want to mention back to those templates we have. Those, they can like look pretty like daunting or like, oh, I've never done this before, but they're like super like easy to do. They're pretty self-explanatory, and like we trust everyone like here to be able to do these things. It just takes a little look through basically, but we trust everyone to be able to fill these out and lead on these different fronts.
Can we possibly get them forms printed out and I keep them here just in case somebody needs them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that way they can read.
We should get you a stack of resources. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind. I mean, I need a little credenza for my tenant union.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll have this toolkit. We should probably post it on we have this as like a Google Doc, so we can, if y'all want it, just reach out, or we can probably post it on our Facebook page. It has all these, it has links to all those resources, has links to a bunch of stuff, so y'all can just look through it and you know, work on it and with it yourself. So yeah, y'all want to move to some discussion about this? Anyone have any like questions or you know, want some explanations?
Nope. I've pretty much you know, said everything I needed to say. I'm just I'm waiting on Tenant Atkins to get back to me Monday so we can we can have this meeting and really get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And have Mr. Carmichael stop running. And
Yeah.
you know, like I told Tanel and I told Mr. Troy at DHA today, we have no contact information with the owner or the property manager.
Yeah.
No communication. It's like they're hiding them from us in the office. Like, why are you hiding these people?
Mm-hmm. They don't want to be accountable, but we can root them out. And I think the stuff y'all been doing and mobilizing has drawn them out because they've been forced to act or forced to show themselves.
They're gonna have to respond to Neil Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to.
Would anyone else like to talk about anything with the toolkit?
No, I think it's really informative, and you know, there's some things on there that I got to reread and educate myself on, because when Alex was going through it, I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
it's like right here at the tip of my fingers.
Yeah.
Like I can grasp it now.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff in the toolkit you've done basically at Estelle. Like a lot of the stuff, like we'll read through it, like we'll see examples of stuff that y'all been doing at Estelle. So it's just really putting a lot of words into what y'all been doing and maybe trying to, you know, guide it a little bit too.
Yep. Well, I'm here. I'm a vessel, so I'm going to be used, and you know, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And so we got Teresa and Tasha from Estelle were on. Y'all have communication with Amanda?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know Teresa.
Teresa is the number in here.
I came to the meeting, but I couldn't march because my joints are messed up. But I came out there 2 times. I came to the meeting. I didn't make it Saturday because we had to go to the grave site. But she came to my door before, Amanda.
Are you the older lady at the park? Was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were complaining about your knees and how you couldn't march. Is that you?
Yeah, because I did some chemo a while back and it messed my joints up.
Okay.
And then I'm not a size 2 either, but yeah, but I came.
Okay, I know who you are. Can you add me on Facebook?
Am I on Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a page on Facebook.
Do you use Facebook, or I can give you my number, or you can tell me what unit and door you're in, and we can you know, we can organize like that.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. My name's Teresa Anderson.
Okay. Are you in the Stell Village chat?
No, ma'am. I've just seen it once. Be honest, I've been over since 2009. I probably know about 2 people over here.
Okay. What building you in?
I'm in building 1.
Okay. What's your door number?
3.
Okay. All right. Well, I can meet up with you during the day sometime. Are you home during?
Yes, ma'am. I get Social Security disability.
Okay. Yeah, I'll meet with you during the day, and we can talk. No problem.
That's fine. Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
All right. If there's no more questions or any more discussion, we should probably go ahead and wrap up.
Okay. Not a problem. I appreciate this meeting.
Yep, it's been real good. We'll start reaching out to people about weekly like Estelle Village meetings, weekly Rolling Hills, so y'all can just you know, talk about different things, have a set day so y'all know, like every day of that week y'all meet and just discuss what's going on. It'll help build community as well, I think, and build communication.
Yeah, and if anybody's in the meeting and they haven't added me on Facebook, you're more than welcome to add me, and you know, we can chat or, you know, organize, help each other, because it's all about the people.
All power to the people.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and end the call. I want to say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Be safe. Y'all have a happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
y'all.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
night.
Be safe.
Yep. Thanks for hopping
Have a
on,
good
y'all.
night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.